So the other day, CBS ran a promo for a show they have titled The Good Fight that not only features a black character promoting violence for speech you find unacceptable, but actually shows clips of Richard Spencer being punched in the face with the suggestion that this is something good, something virtuous, that some ideas can only be responded to with violence. Now, I'll have to admit that while this comes as no shock, that this is how the authoritarian left feels, I was genuinely surprised to see this so nakedly displayed in a mainstream ad campaign. So surprised, in fact, that I thought this clip must have been cut out of context or poorly edited in some way. Maybe it had slipped past the standards and practices people at CBS somehow. It was a fluke. If nothing else, the legal department would have told them, surely, that this was a bad idea, that Richard Spencer or really anyone on the right who gets assaulted would have grounds for a lawsuit and would sue CBS. So I decided to watch the full episode of The Good Fight that this ad was promoting. And to my surprise, it was far worse than just the ad itself. Far worse than the ad could have possibly illustrated. Now, full disclosure, I'd never heard of this show before. I try not to concern myself with the leftist vomit that's coming out of Hollywood today because the propaganda at this point is so thinly veiled, it doesn't require an interpreter to see it. But now I'm starting to question that decision. It seems like no one's been minding the store. And this wound on our society has just been festering. And the infection has just been spreading and the message spinning out of control. The Good Fight seems to be a show about a mostly black left-wing social justice law firm. There's another story. There's two stories in this episode. One of them is about some kind of class action lawsuit that I'm going to completely ignore entirely. It's irrelevant, and it seems like you need to be an avid watcher of this inane drivel to understand what's going on anyway. So I'm going to focus on the B story, which is the story of these two black lawyers from the law firm who have been sent out to be official polling place observers for the Democrats in an election somewhere in flyover country. So first off, they meet their Republican counterparts, who of course are white, well, kind of, and the parade of cliches begins. They argue about Black Lives Matter and abortion and just, it's just really stupid Hollywood cliche stuff. This kind of escalates a little bit, but it stays polite. And then the white Republicans spot a man wearing a marijuana t-shirt that says, "They go low, we go high." The white Republicans complain that this is political speech and therefore can't be allowed at the polling place. The black Democrats say that it's not a campaign slogan and it should be allowed. The man in charge sides with the Republicans, probably because he's a white racist, and tells the man that he can only vote if he removes his shirt first. And that's when we learn that this guy was a secret Nazi. Yes, I get it. It's a joke. But the writers are also trying to establish here that you never know where the Nazis are. You might think you know someone, but deep down inside or under their t-shirt, they're a Nazi. And you'll see in a second that I'm not exaggerating. Now, inexplicably, about halfway through the show, an anti-Trump cartoon music video just starts playing for literally no reason at all. Or maybe the reason is to make sure the lower IQ members of the audience, or maybe their children, know for sure that the Republicans are bad and the Democrats are the heroes. It's obviously designed for NPCs to consume the same way they would a musical jingle selling them used cars. Or to get a kid to beg their parents to take them to McDonald's. Next we see someone who I assume is a mutilated version of Richard Spencer combined with the French protesters, the yellow vest protesters. This man represents what scares the hell out of the globalist elite the most. It's right-wing whites with access to their audiences through their phones, through platforms like YouTube, and the civil disobedience of the not reported at all in mainstream media, the yellow vest protesters. The globalists know their audience is too stupid to know anything about either group beyond what they might have been told by Stephen Colbert or Saturday Night Live, so they know they can just cram these two groups together and put a scary mask on it, call it a monster, and then, as you'll see, invite them to kill the monster. The scary red jackets show up in big scary trucks and screaming like hillbillies, waving American flags. It's beyond Hollywood cliche, screaming yeehaw as they pull up into the parking lot, as white nationalists often do. Bizarro World Richard Spencer tells his audience with a wink and a nod that he's there to stop voter fraud, but clearly he's there to scare off the colored people. So the female black lawyer calls her friend at the law firm, an empowered white feminist with powdered ovaries, to tell her that the evil red jackets have arrived, and they cook up a plan to dox all of the red jackets, make them lose their jobs and their bank accounts. I'm not even joking. That's really what they start doing. They take pictures of all these red jackets and then send the pictures to the leftist fantasy world version of left-wing 4chan, a cute single woman in a coffee shop who's surprisingly not black, who then starts to write fake stories on the internet and calling up their employers to get them fired, and using their connections with financial institutions to get their bank accounts and credit cards closed. This is in the fucking show. This is now normalized. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not just the extremists on the left trying to not only deplatform white people on the right and take away their right to free speech, they're trying to destroy their lives. And they're so proud of what they're doing, they're making their imaginary heroes, these role models for the legions of NPCs. They're using this to normalize and promote this behavior. They're signaling to the herd that this is the new standard. This is how you react to dissent. By deplatforming, by silencing, not by engaging with ideas, but by destroying the people who voice them. And meanwhile, in clown world, what does Congress do? They hold hearings about the big white menace, sending the exact same signals to the NPCs. So now the news shows up to interview Bizarro World Richard Spencer.
All people are not created equal.
Fair point.
Women vote based on emotion.
Also a fair point.
Muslims vote for Sharia law.
Kind of hard to argue with.
Blacks are out for blood.
Not exactly how I, or really anyone I know, would put it. But that's okay. He needed to say it that way for the story to work. And by the way, to pretend that blacks don't vote as a monolithic group is completely insane. And quite frankly, it's demonstrated in this show, where every single black in the show is a Democrat, which isn't the last thing that the show is going to inadvertently concede. Then, of course, they have to tell the NPCs, they have to trust the mainstream media and call them objective.
How could she not vomit interviewing him?
She's a reporter. Objectivity is the whole point.
Only to then follow up with, there's some people you shouldn't be objective about.
Some people you shouldn't be objective about.
Mm-hmm.
Now think about that statement. There are some people you shouldn't be objective about. And look how easily the woman he's talking to agrees with him.
Mm-hmm.
One mistake that the right makes over and over and over again is believing the lie that everyone cares about objective truth. that if you point out the hypocrisy of the left, they will suddenly realize the error of their ways and say, gee, I never thought about that, bro. Ben Shapiro is fond of saying that facts don't care about your feelings, but totally ignores the other side of that coin, that their feelings don't care about facts. Next, the black lawyer is washing his hands in the bathroom when Bizarro World Richard Spencer comes in. What follows is almost more insane than the promo that led me to watch this. Not only because of the despicable behavior the writers are attempting to normalize and promote, but the complete lack of self-awareness on display. The black lawyer, quoting Bizarro World Richard Spencer, says, "You said that black people are out for blood?" To which Bizarro World Richard Spencer says, "If it helps any, given your racial profile and community, you probably can't help yourself." Now, rather than proving the evil Bizarro Richard Spencer, leader of the Red Jackets, is wrong, that he can engage in peaceful discourse, he doesn't resort to violence just because he's black. He can help himself. He can engage with this man and his ideas in a way that seeks to find understanding. Instead of doing this, he cold cocks him while he's not looking. And if that wasn't enough, out of the bathroom stall comes the establishment white Republican who makes it very clear to any evil white nationalist that might be watching that even the establishment right thinks that this was the appropriate way to respond to words. He tells the black lawyer that he'll claim that Bizarro Richard Spencer just slipped and fell. The message is clear. The left intends to bring violence to ideas they don't like, and the establishment right will play along, and hell, they might even facilitate it. And the violence isn't over yet. Outside, one of the red vests starts yelling at a reporter because he thinks she's the one who doxed him and cost him his job. The female black lawyer tells him it wasn't the reporter, it was her. And once again, we're given the signal that the establishment right agrees with doxing too. When the sort of white Republican lady says, no, it was her. She's the one that doxed the evil Red Jackets. Followed by the preppy white Republican establishment man saying, no, it was him. You see, it's all a united front against the evil nationalist Red Jackets. And that's when the riot breaks out. The evil, violent Red Jackets just begin attacking everyone and acting like Antifa, which is no coincidence. Even NPCs have likely seen footage of Antifa rioting with their red flag, so why not confuse them with the right? It's the right that starts riots and hurts people, didn't you know? And now we get to the clip that was in the promo. In the chaos, the black lawyer who's already assaulted someone for their ideas, already sucker punched a man whose ideas he didn't like, and then participated in the cover-up of his crime, and was complicit in doxing people, trying to deprive them of their livelihood because he doesn't like what they say. This man is now about to deliver a sermon to the NPC audience. He says, "Is it all right to hit a Nazi unprovoked?" Unprovoked. I was always taught never to throw the first punch, never instigate, defend, but don't attack. But then I saw a video of the white nationalist Richard Spencer being punched in the face during an interview, and I realized Spencer was in a pressed suit, wearing a tie, being interviewed like his opinion mattered, like it should be considered part of the conversation, like neo-Nazism was just one political point of view. And then I realized There's no better way to show some speech is not equal. Some speech requires a more visceral response. It's like Overton's window, the term in which ideas are tolerated in public discourse. Well, Overton's window doesn't mean shit unless it comes with some enforcement. So yeah, this is enforcement. It's time to punch a few Nazis. That's what it says. That's what it says while showing clips of Richard Spencer being assaulted during an interview. They've already labeled everyone on the right a Nazi. They were saying Candace Owens was a Nazi last week. So if Candace Owens is a Nazi, you're certainly a Nazi. There you have it, folks. This is the new normal. CBS won't be deplatformed because the executives that run the platforms and their billionaire backers agree with this message. We all knew this is what they were thinking, but now it's out in the open. And the funny thing is, the last thing that they're worried about is their speech being responded to by a more visceral reaction. For BlackPilled, I'm Devin Stack. If you like my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you share. If you want to support my videos, you can pick up a copy of my book, Day of the Rope, or you can send crypto to one of the addresses below or become a patron at patreon.com/BlackPilled.